So, Halloween is just around the corner. I'm going to start with a Halloweeny, spooky, scary sort of question for all of you. By show of hands, how many people here have given serious thought to what you would do in the event of a zombie outbreak? Hands up. Oh yeah, pretty much everybody. John too. Good. Well, my STEM career, my job is all about making sure you never have to put your zombie escape plan into effect. My colleagues and I at the BC Centre for Disease Control, we are the first line of defense between you and armies of the undead. So we work in public health. This is our office. We're just up by Vancouver General Hospital and by City Hall. And public health is really all about keeping you, the public, wait for it, healthy. I think you probably saw where that was going. And BC CDC is a super cool place to work. If there were something like a zombie outbreak, we would be the first to know about it. Our surveillance systems would pick it up. We'd be the ones that would have to diagnose that outbreak. We'd have to potentially discover a totally new infectious agent. We'd be the ones who are responsible for controlling that outbreak, making sure it doesn't get any further, and we'd be the ones responsible for prevention, getting people vaccinated so that they don't turn into zombies either. And while zombies are obviously a figment of Hollywood's imagination, or at least we think, the stuff that we do in a zombie outbreak, or we would do, is the same stuff that we do every day for more everyday routine pathogens. There's a lot of boring stuff out there, infectious diseases that were around for a while and are kind of making a comeback, things like measles, things like mumps. There's pretty standard everyday stuff, you know, food poisoning, flu, the common cold, but we also get some really cool pathogens too, things that maybe aren't as deadly and dramatic as a zombie outbreak, but I think are potentially just as dangerous. There's things like the Ebola virus, for example. Here's a picture of the Zika virus that's been going around in Brazil lately, something we've known about for 70 years, but all of a sudden started causing really weird, strange illnesses in people in a part of the world we hadn't seen before. We've got things like antibiotic-resistant superbugs, bacteria often transmitted in hospitals that are resistant to all of the medicines we have. This is probably a bigger threat to humanity right now than a zombie apocalypse. And we at the CDC are the ones who are tasked with studying all of this. There's loads of different jobs within that CDC building, but the one that I do, the one that I think is the most interesting, is trying to figure out how outbreaks of infectious disease start and how they spread from person to person. And to do this, I use a really cool technology. I use something called genome sequencing. A genome is simply the set of genetic instructions that encodes a living thing. Every living thing has a genome. Humans have a genome. You each have many, many, many copies of your genome in your body in almost every one of your cells. But all of the things that I like to study, the bacteria, the viruses, the parasites, the fungi, they all have genomes too. And by reading their genomes, literally reading them like a book, I can figure out where did that pathogen come from and how is it spreading from person to person, information that is incredibly important for us if we want to be able to control that outbreak. Now, reading a genome sounds like something that is fairly complicated, and up until a couple of years ago, it was. The equipment that we'd use to read a genome was big stuff. It would be, say, the size of like a stove or an oven in your house, a pretty big box. But just in the last couple of years, the technology has changed dramatically. Here is a picture of Raymond. Raymond works with two friends of mine, and what he's doing here is sequencing Ebola virus genomes. He, when this picture was taken, was on the ground in the West African Ebola response. And he's sequencing the genomes on that tiny little rectangle that's plugged into the USB port of his computer. That's amazing, going in just a couple of years from a box the size of a stove to this tiny USB-powered DNA sequencer. We can take genome sequencing, we can take DNA sequencing anywhere these days. We can take it into the heart of a jungle and do it right in the middle of an outbreak. The other thing that's cool about this picture, like I said, Raymond is sequencing Ebola virus genomes. This is one of the deadliest pathogens known to man. But you notice he's not in a special lab. He's not wearing one of those blue positive pressure suits hooked up to an air hose. He's just at a desk in his office. This new type of sequencing technology means that we can sequence anywhere. We don't need that specialized lab. So a lot of my work is reading these pathogen genomes, and a lot of it doesn't take place in a lab. It takes place at a desk like this. So if you're somebody that's interested in public health as a career, if you want to do the same sort of stuff that I do for work, yes, it's important to study biology, and yes, it's important to study microbiology and health and medicine, but it's also important to be like the computer cat here and get really comfortable with data science, with using your computer to analyze massive, large data sets. I do a load of computational biology, and it's pretty cool that sitting there with a laptop and a tiny DNA sequencer in the middle of a jungle sequencing an outbreak is how we do public health these days. So if you are somebody who is interested in solving mysteries, if you are somebody who is interested in keeping people healthy, and if you are somebody who secretly kind of hopes that maybe one day there is a zombie outbreak and you get to put your plan into action, public health could be the career for you, because if there's a zombie apocalypse, you'll be the first one to find out about it, and you'll be the one that's fighting it. So good luck, choose public health, and if you're interested, I'll be around later and can answer all your questions about scary diseases. Have an awesome day.